armor, glory, battle. That's how the songs tell it. But most mornings for a medieval knight, they start with cold feet and a sore back. The truth: knights spent more time wrapping buckles than wielding swords. More silence than song, more aches than applause. Their days began before sunlight and ended with steel never far. This is slow history, told softly, honestly, for minds that wander and hearts that want to rest. In the next few minutes, you'll wake beside a knight. Feel the weight of chainmail, taste bread gone hard, and step into a courtyard where duty arrives before daylight. Thousands listen to stories like this each night. To sleep, to slow down, or to feel something real. In a world that rarely pauses. If you're settling in now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan. And if this feels like home, tap like, subscribe only if you truly want to return. Tell me in the comments, where in the world are you listening from? You wake before the sun, not because of duty, but because your back can no longer ignore the cold stone beneath your straw mattress. You blink into the gray. The air is thick with sleep and iron. No birds yet, no movement, only the quiet creak of wood cooling in the night. You pull the wool blanket tighter. It's rough, scratchy, and smells faintly of oil and sweat. But there's no more sleep to chase. You sit up, your knees ache. At 28, your bones already carry stories the songs haven't sung. In a castle, the first alarm isn't a bell, it's the stiffness in your spine. The room is narrow, bare walls, a narrow window slit, and iron tools hanging like relics. No paintings, no candles, just you and the weight of what must be worn. At your feet, a coiled length of chainmail waits. Not draped, not folded, coiled like something that could bite. You slide your legs from the bed. Cold stone greets your feet like an old rival. You grunt, stand, stretch, crack. Your linen underlayer lies in a crumple near the bench. You step into it, left foot, right foot, always in that order. Even before the armor, a knight wraps himself in habit. You reach for the padded jack. It's thick, stiff with use. You wriggle into it like a snake remembering its own skin. Still no sound beyond your chamber. Still no knock. Your squire is late, again. But you don't wait idly. You kneel beside the armor. Piece by piece, you inspect. No rust today, no missing rivets. A good omen, if you believed in such things. The chainmail is heavier in the morning. Or maybe you're just slower. Steel remembers the sleep you didn't get. The door creaks. The boy arrives, cheeks red from the wind, hair tangled, eyes apologetic. He mutters a greeting and begins without excuse. He helps you lift the mail over your head. It lands with a clink and a grunt. 40 pounds of silence. He fastens the straps beneath your arms, tugs once, then again. You inhale slowly, let it settle. Next, the greaves. He kneels. One buckle, two, tight but tolerable. Then the leather gloves, calloused fingers sliding into stiffer ones. There's no such thing as comfort, only familiarity worn thin. He hands you the surcoat, wool dyed in muted colors, no crest, no flare. You pull it over the chain. It smells like rain that never dried. The last thing is your sword. You take it, not from his hand, but from its place on the wall. Always the same grip, always the same pause. A knight may forget his name, but never the feel of his blade. You strap it on, slowly, deliberately. The squire steps back. He knows this part belongs to you alone. You glance at the helm. You won't wear it yet, not until the light hits your face. You move toward the door. Mail whispers with every step, a rustle like dead leaves brushing together. The boy falls in behind you, barefoot, quiet. No words, only the sound of two breaths trying not to be heard. You reach the corridor. Stone underfoot, torches guttering in their sconces. The scent of damp wool, horse, and iron fills the air. You descend. The stairs don't creak, but your knees do. The hallway opens to the inner keep. Two servants bow low and let you pass. Not out of fear, out of rhythm. At the end of the hall, a basin waits. Water still, cold, unforgiving. You splash your face. It bites. You don't flinch. You dry with a cloth left by someone thinking ahead. It smells faintly of lavender, someone else's luxury. You check your reflection in the warped brass plate. Just eyes, tired but awake. You nod once, not to yourself, but to the wait. You eat quickly, hard bread, a slice of salted pork, and half a pear that survived the frost. Breakfast is not for joy, it is for duty. Outside, the courtyard stirs. Hooves, barking orders, leather tightening over shields. You wait at the archway, letting your body adjust to the rhythm of war. Your squire returns, helm in hand. You take it, rest it under your arm. One more breath. Then you step into the light. No trumpet sounds. But the world shifts as you emerge. Dust, stone, the thrum of readiness. You take your place among the others. Not as a leader, not as a follower. Just one more link in the long chain of steel. The sun rises for all, but a knight steps out to meet it dressed in shadow. You sit at the long oak table, the grain of the wood hidden beneath trenchers, crumbs, and flickering light. It's early, but the warmth of the hearth has not reached this end of the hall. The stone walls still hold last night's chill. You stretch your fingers, still stiff from training yesterday, and reach for the thick, uneven wedge of bread in front of you. It's coarse and dark, with a crust you could use to file a blade. Next to it sits a small slice of hard cheese, aged goat, probably, and a wooden mug filled with thin ale. Barely alcoholic. Just enough to sterilize whatever may still linger in your throat. This is breakfast. Not a feast. Not comfort. It's fuel. Dry, cold, practical. A squire beside you sneezes into his sleeve. No one flinches. He's already learning the first rule. Silence is gold before noon. Especially in the night's wing. The only sounds are the scraping of knives against wood, the occasional cough, and the wet chew of bread being forced into mouths too tired to protest. A knight across from you breaks his cheese with the side of his blade, precisely, like he's practicing a surgical strike. He does this every morning. No crumbs, no waste. That's the art of nightly eating. Precision. Control. No sloppiness. No indulgence. You once saw a knight attempt to pour extra ale into his mug when no one was looking. His hand slipped. The jug tipped. The ale splashed onto the captain's sleeve. He wasn't punished with words. just with silence. For a week, no one spoke to him. That silence was louder than any scolding could have been. Even at breakfast, the hierarchy breathes. A noble-born knight at the far end of the table eats dried figs and soft white cheese. He dabs his lips with linen. No one imitates him. That would be a challenge. An invitation. You stay with your black bread. You think back to when you first arrived. You sat by the kitchen door then. Your bread was smaller, your cheese crumbly, and your mug was just a bowl. Now you're in the center row. Mid-table. That means something here. You've climbed, even if just a little. Your neighbor leans in, whispers about a loose saddle strap. Another mutters about the horse's hooves and the farrier's bad mood. No one raises their voice. No one tells stories yet. Until someone does. There's always one. He starts with a chuckle. Remember Sir Bertram? And suddenly everyone is listening. Sir Bertram, who once fell asleep during a morning meal, his head landing in a plate of buttered oats. They say he woke with porridge in his beard and still led the training that day. That's how legends are born here. Not in battle, but in breakfast halls. The story gets a new twist today. Someone adds that he also drooled onto the captain's spoon. Whether it's true or not doesn't matter. What matters is the laugh. Even the captain allows a slight smirk. That's permission. The room breathes again. But it's brief. Just a beat. Then someone coughs. Someone shifts. The moment ends. Your bread is half gone. You chew slower now, thinking. You look down the table again. The squires still eat quickly, nervously. They don't know yet how to stretch a meal to make time for thought. Knights don't eat fast. They calculate. They watch. Across from you, an older knight leaves a piece of cheese untouched. He's fasting today, someone whispers. A vow. Or a punishment. No one knows which. No one asks. Discipline here shows in what you don't touch. You take your final sip of ale. Warm by now. Bitter. The captain clears his throat. Stables? One word. Enough. Everyone begins to rise. The scrape of benches. The shuffle of chainmail. The return of silence. You nod at your neighbor. He nods back. No words needed. As you make your way toward the stables, the cold stones underfoot feel oddly comforting. They remind you that everything here has weight. Your boots, your armor, your choices. A group of squires carries hay across the yard, laughing too loudly. One gets a glare from a nearby knight and immediately quiets. Even laughter must know its place. You pass the well. The water bucket sits full, unattended, steam curling from its lip into the morning air. You stop for a moment, dip your hand in. Cold. Sharper than you'd like. You splash your face anyway. Discipline doesn't pause for comfort. Someone behind you grumbles about stale cheese. Another responds with a quiet, "It was better than nothing." You wonder if they remember when nothing was the actual breakfast. Inside the stable, the air changes. Damp hay, warm animals, the soft snort of a restless gelding. You make eye contact with your horse. He blinks slowly, like he's already bored of the day ahead. You can relate. There's no rush to saddle up, Not yet. First comes brushing, then checking hooves, then checking the tack, then checking everything again. The routine matters. The order matters. A missed strap today is a broken bone tomorrow. A younger knight asks if anyone wants the last heel of bread. No one answers. It's too late for food. But his question lingers, spoken too casually, too loud. A reminder that he's still learning. He'll tighten up. Or get tightened by experience. You move slowly but with purpose. That's how it's done. Fast looks messy. Purposeful looks confident. Someone jokes, better clean your saddle like your soul. You smile, just slightly. It's an old saying, but it holds. A dirty saddle is a lazy knight. A clean one is a quiet message. I'm ready. By the time the sun clears the ramparts, most of the horses are groomed. A few knights are already mounted. Not you. Not yet. First, you tighten every buckle one last time. You glance toward the dining hall. The kitchen boy appears, carrying an empty platter. He pauses, looks at you, nods. It's not just a greeting. It's recognition. You've been here a while. You're part of the rhythm now. That rhythm, the quiet routines, the small nods, the way boots land on stone, is what keeps the order alive. Your hand brushes the edge of your scabbard as you mount. Cold metal, warm leather. Morning air. Half a loaf still in your gut. But your mind, fully awake. Breakfast isn't over when you finish eating. It ends when you're ready to serve. The courtyard hums before the sun climbs high. Not with song or chatter, but with breath. Heavy, rhythmic breath. You grip the wooden bar overhead and pull. Once, twice, 10 times. Your muscles tremble with the familiar ache. This is not vanity. This is survival. A knight does not just wear armor. He earns the right to carry it. Beside you, a younger squire fumbles with his shield straps. The leather squeals. He grits his teeth, pulls again. You nod silently. He'll get it, or he won't. Either way, training does not pause. Across the yard, 2 knights clash with wooden swords. The sound is sharp, dull, sharp again, oak on oak, like drum beats. Each hit a question. Each block an answer. You move to your spot. A pile of training gear waits, shield, practice blade, helmet that smells faintly of rust and yesterday's sweat. You slide it on. Vision narrows. Focus sharpens. A bell rings. Not loudly. Just enough. Enough to say, begin. You raise your shield. The first blow comes fast. Your elbow absorbs it. A shock up the arm. But your stance holds. You counter, miss, again, hit. Breath comes fast now. Your lungs sting. The cold air, the iron in your mouth, the way your pulse drums in your ear. This is not play. This is rehearsal for pain. Your instructor steps into the ring. Sir Alric, gray beard, old scars, no smile. He takes the sword from you, demonstrates a twist-step parry. You blink. He's faster than you'll ever be. Again, he says. You do it again. And again. Until your arm burns like fire and the blade feels like a brick. The sweat soaks into your tunic. Your shoulder twinges. Your breath hitches. But your eyes stay locked on the target. Today, he brings out the sacks. Sandbags tied to ropes. They swing wildly when struck. Dodge, he says. One flies past your cheek. Too close. Another grazes your thigh. You plant your feet deeper. Lower your stance. You swing too soon, miss. Swing again, hit. Now another comes at your back. Duck, roll, rise. Pain blooms in your ribs. A good kind of pain. The kind that reminds you you're not dead yet. Around you, others grunt, stumble, swear. Sir Alric watches. He never claps, only nods. Later, you catch him placing a hand on one boy's shoulder. Quiet approval. No words. You move to the balance beams next. Wooden logs, slick with morning dew. Shield on. Sword raised. Your opponent moves toward you. No real hits here. Just balance. Just rhythm. You swing. He ducks. He swings. You stumble. Catch yourself. Grin. Falling in practice is allowed. Falling in battle is not. Your shoulder aches. Your boots slip. But you stay up. Training continues with the same rhythm. Break, breathe, begin again. A group nearby does shield bashes. The thud shakes the earth. The clang echoes down stone walls. Even pigeons scatter. Sir Alric yells something in Latin. No one responds. They just move faster. Your heart pounds. Your tunic clings. But your smile returns. Because here, in this yard, no one is noble or poor. Only trained or untrained. You trade spots with the taller knight. He grins. You nod. The mutual respect of bruises. A final round, staff drills. Two-handed. Circles, jabs, sweeps. Your arms are jelly now. Your legs, dust. But the sweat on your brow is proof. Proof that you're learning. As the group begins cleaning the training yard, you linger near the dummy rack. The wooden targets are chipped and scarred. Each one tells the story of someone's mistake. You place your hand on one. Splinters catch your skin. You smile. This one, you remember. It took a week for the bruise to fade. A younger squire struggles to return his gear to the hooks. His shield clatters to the floor. Everyone turns. He freezes. Then, a quiet chuckle escapes an older knight. The tension breaks. The squire exhales. He's still learning. But he's not alone. You return your sword to the rack. Your hand hesitates. The hilt is warm from the morning's effort. You don't want to let it go. But you must. Training time is over. A bell rings again. This time a softer tone. It signals the end of drills. You pass the water barrels. Steam rises from buckets left out too long. You splash some on your neck. It runs down your back, washing away the dust, though not the weight. Beside you, a knight adjusts his gloves, flexing fingers until they pop. Didn't think I'd make it through that last round, he mutters. You nod. Neither did you. but no one says that part aloud. You look back at the practice yard. Dust still hangs in the air. Footprints mark every inch. Broken straw from the dummies litters the edges. It looks like chaos. But to you, it's perfect order. Each mark means progress. Each dent, a lesson. Each bead of sweat, a line in the book of becoming. Training isn't about glory. It's about repetition. It's about grit. It's about doing the hard thing again and again, until it becomes natural, until your body remembers what your mind forgets. As you make your way toward the armory, a breeze passes through the yard. It carries the scent of sweat, old leather, and pine smoke. Strangely comforting. It means the morning did its job. Tomorrow, it will begin again. Same place. Same weight. Same pain. But now your footfalls are slower. The adrenaline fades. You feel every step. You pass the well again. Someone singing softly nearby, a stable hand perhaps. The melody is old, worn smooth by centuries. No words. Just hums. You hum along almost without noticing. In the distance, a bell chimes again. This time for chapel. Some will go. Some will sneak off to nap. Some, like you, will sit quietly and think. Not of glory, not of enemies, just of the sound steel makes when it meets wood. And how, tomorrow, it will sound just a little different. Because today, you got better. And that's enough for now. You walk down the stone corridor behind the stables. The air changes. Cooler. Earthier. The scent of hay, leather, and something warm, something alive greets you. Hooves shuffle. A quiet huff escapes the nearest stall. You smile. He remembers you. His name is Brax. Big. Dark-eyed. Smarter than most squires. And likely more loyal. You unlatch the wooden door. He snorts softly. Not a protest, just a hello. You lift the brush. Start at the shoulder, move in circles. Dust swirls up, settles on your sleeve. Each stroke slows your breath. Each motion grounds you. Knighthood begins not with swords, but with care. You check Brax's hooves, one at a time. Kneel. Tilt. Inspect. A stone wedged deep could turn victory into limping defeat. You scrape out a bit of dried mud. Tap gently. He shifts his weight, but trusts you. His legs are pillars. Muscle under skin. Skin under armor. Not yours. His. Some call war horses tools. You know better. He has moods. Preferences. He likes apples but hates pears. He nips at squires who rush the saddle. And he sneezes, loudly, when annoyed. You wrap your arms around his neck. He leans into you. Just a moment. But it's enough. A knight's life is shared with this creature. You don't ride a horse. You ride a bond. The stable is quiet now. Other knights tend their own. Each man moving slow. Not from laziness, but respect. You carry a bucket of oats to the trough. Brax watches. Waits. He knows. He always knows. You pour slowly, not too fast. Let the scent bloom. Grain, sweet molasses, crushed dried carrot. He eats with focus. Grateful but not greedy. You remember once, in winter, when food was scarce, you gave him your last dried fig? He looked at you as if he understood. Maybe he did. You glance around. One squire drops a brush. Another laughs nervously. A horse stomps once, then twice, then settles. This is not glamour. This is ritual. The kind of care no song mentions. But without this, there's no charge into battle. No retreat. No return. Outside, the wind picks up. You reach for the saddle. Lift it. Check the leather straps. Still supple. Still strong. One loop is fraying. You note it. We'll fix it after lunch. Can't risk a slip. Not out there. You tighten the girth slowly, one notch at a time. Brax flinches slightly, then exhales. He's ready, but not yet called. He shifts his weight. You pat his flank. In the stall beside you, a knight speaks to his mare. Soft words, like to a child. You smile. You've done the same. You step back. Admire your work. Brushed. Fed. Checked. And loved. There's a story Sir Godric tells, often, and never with dry eyes. How his horse, wounded and limping, turned back in the chaos of battle. Found him. Pulled him by the collar of his hauberk, dragged him from a burning siege tower, saved his life. More man than man, he always says, and no one laughs. You look at Brax. Would he do the same? Maybe. Maybe more. A horn sounds in the courtyard. Training bell. Time to go. You whisper, I'll be back soon. He doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. But he hears. He always hears. As you gather the grooming tools, you notice the comb is missing a tooth. Still works, but not ideal. You make a note to request a new one from the quartermaster. Or maybe carve one from oak, like your father did. He used to say, if you take care of the horse's skin, it'll take care of yours. You didn't understand then. You do now. At the far end of the stable, a young stallion kicks at the wall. New recruit. Not yet named. Still wild-eyed. Two squires try to calm him. He resists. Thrashes. You walk over. Say nothing. Just hold up your hand. He snorts. Lowers his head. Breathes. You wait. Then, slowly, you step forward. Brush once. Then again. He doesn't move. Name him? One squire asks. You pause. Too soon, you say. He hasn't earned it yet. Back near Brax's stall, you hang the bridle, polish the bit. Metal catches candlelight. Your reflection is warped, but there. Every knight has a scar from a horse. Some physical, some quieter. You still flinch when you hear a girth snap. The day your old gelding collapsed mid-trot, you cried like a child. No one mocked you. Out in the paddock, the colts run. Their hooves throw up soft clumps of soil. Sunlight strikes their manes like threads of fire. For a moment, you forget the war. You lean on the stall gate. Think of all the things these animals have seen, carried, survived. They do not pray, do not swear fealty, but they serve. When a night falls, the horse does not flee. He stays, or dies trying. There's a grave near the chapel. No name, just a carved hoof on the stone. Loyal companion, the inscription reads. No date, but every night knows the tale. You feel your ribs expand, not with pride, but with something softer. You reach into your pocket. A sugar cube. You hold it flat on your palm. Brax noses it carefully, then takes it. One crunch, then stillness. You smile. Say nothing. He's heard enough words today. You walk slowly toward the stable door, each footstep echoing against the plank floor. The world beyond awaits, training fields, barked orders, endless repetition. But here is peace. And in this quiet place, between the brush strokes, feed buckets, and hoof oil, you remember who carries you into the storm and why you must return. Always. The morning bell rings again, this time not for the sword, but for the spoon. You leave the stables, hands still smelling faintly of leather and oats. But now, it's time to smell of lavender and etiquette. In the upper hall of the manor, daylight filters through arched windows. The stone floor has been swept, and on each polished bench, a young squire sits upright, trying not to shift too much. The instructor enters, a tall man in fine wool and polished boots. He doesn't carry a sword. He carries a stick, slender, polished, perfect for tapping elbows. You'd rather be hit with a wooden sword than corrected at a noble's dinner. He begins with the bow, not too low, not too fast, never bob. Then, how to walk, heels down, straight line, not like a duck. Then the hand gesture for greeting someone of equal, higher, or holy status. There's a hierarchy of nods, bows, and silences. You never realized how complicated silence could be. Someone sneezes mid-bow. The instructor stops, stares, notes it on his parchment. The poor boy wilts like lettuce in the sun. In battle, hesitation gets you wounded. In court, it gets you laughed at. You adjust your posture just a little. You're seated across from Dame Eleonora, the noblewoman assigned to teach social grace. Not a warrior, not a priest, yet her gaze is sharper than a longsword. Her sleeves brush the polished table as she sets down a lace-covered handkerchief. Today's lesson, speaking to a lady without embarrassing your lineage. Your sword can win battles, but the wrong compliment can start wars. She begins gently. How would you greet a duchess, young squire? Your answer? With respect? She raises one eyebrow. That's not an answer. That's a shrug dressed in words. She teaches posture with poetry. Speak with your eyes. Sit like your spine holds secrets. Dame Eleonora once dined with the Queen Mother. She once corrected a visiting count without using a single word, just the angle of her spoon. You take notes with the fear of a man copying battle formations. Then she demonstrates the fan. 1 flick means interest. 2 flicks means boredom. 3 flicks, a warning. You always thought armor was complicated. Turns out, lace and etiquette are deadlier. The lesson ends. You bow, not too low. She doesn't smile. She nods once. That's enough. You survived, barely. The long table is set with more utensils than you've ever used in your life. Spoons shaped like leaves, forks with 3 tines, 4 tines. Knives that don't cut meat, just expectations. You're not hungry, you're terrified. The steward walks in. "Dinner simulation," he announces. Everyone stiffens. You could win a duel, but drop your cup here, and you'll never live it down. Your seat is assigned, next to a baron's nephew with excellent posture and very loud chewing. You're given broth, no slurping. Bread, no tearing. Meat, cut at a 45-degree angle. Why? No one knows, but it's tradition. You accidentally use the dessert spoon for soup. A squire across from you gasps audibly. You nod and pretend it was intentional. Sometimes, nobility is just confidence in your mistake. Halfway through, you realize there's a rhythm. Sip, pause, smile, nod. Too fast, you're uncultured. Too slow, you're bored. A dame corrects you softly, knife faces in, not out. You correct it, hand trembling slightly. You've sparred with real blades. But this dinner, this is the true test. And just when you think it's over, someone whispers, "Next course is fish, with bones." You gulp. Afternoons are for public appearances, sometimes real, sometimes rehearsed. Today it's practice. A mock hall is set up. Banners on the wall. A fake duke sits on a real chair. Your task: enter, greet, deliver a single sentence, and exit. Easy? One wrong bow and you've just insulted an entire duchy. You step forward. Chin high. Eyes low. Arms just right. You begin your sentence and trip on the edge of the rug. Gasps. Laughter. Correction. The instructor nods to another squire. She steps in, perfects every motion, bows flawlessly. You're told to clap. You do. Then repeat. And again. And again. You're not training to be liked. You're training not to be offensive by accident. By the 10th round, you're dizzy from the effort of looking effortless. Your smile hurts. Your shoulders twitch every time someone coughs. The instructor says, "One more time, but now with grace." You wonder how grace fits between sweaty palms and cramped toes. Still, you bow again. This time you don't trip. You nearly stumble, but catch yourself. A murmur of approval, a small nod. It feels like victory. Until the steward walks in and announces tomorrow's test. Dinner with actual nobles. No scripts. No safety nets. Etiquette is war, only quieter, and far more humiliating. You don't sleep well that night. Evening lessons shift from form to fear. You're in the great hall now. Candles flicker, shadows dance on stone. It's time to review what happens when you fail, publicly. You sit in a circle. The instructor paces. He tells tales of squires who bowed to the wrong person, spilled wine on a duke's boots, tripped over a queen's dog. No duel scars hurt more than a noble's cold laughter. One story stands out. A knight who forgot to rise when the king entered? He wasn't punished. He just wasn't invited back. Ever. Another, a squire who spoke out of turn during a feast. He became the punchline of a song sung in 3 provinces. Memory is the sharpest weapon at court, and nobles never forget. You're told to practice apologizing with grace. Yes, my lord. No, your grace. I am humbled. I am honored. You practice until your voice feels like parchment. Someone stumbles over the phrase with deepest apologies. Laughter erupts, then silence. You write it down in your palm, just in case. The instructor ends with a final note. Charm protects more lives than chainmail. You nod. And you hope your spoon technique is as strong as your sword arm. It begins like a prayer. Your armor sits against the stone wall, silent, waiting. Your sword rests across your lap. And in your hand, a cloth, a jar of oil, a whetstone. There is no music, only the scrape, the hush of breath, the whisper of steel on stone. Before a knight fights others, he must first face his own dullness. You check the blade's edge twice, then 3 times. A notch near the hilt. You remember when you earned it 2 winters ago near the river bend. You keep it, not as a flaw, as memory. The Polish follows, circular motion, always toward the tip. Never back and forth, never rushed. Armor is next. The gauntlet creaks. The chest plate reflects torchlight. You catch your own tired eyes in the metal. A soldier, yes, but also a caretaker. The weight of a blade is less than the weight of forgetting how to respect it. Some squires rush this part, scrubbing with brute force, smearing oil like jam. But not you. You were taught better. The cloth is folded 4 times. The oil is dabbed, not poured. Every plate of your armor gets its moment. Elbows, knees, neck joint. All places where a careless knight gets cut. You hum as you work, not a tune, a rhythm. The same beat your mentor used to keep time. By the time you finish, the sword hums faintly when tapped. The metal sings back. This song is your insurance. This polish, your last defense. When others talk of courage, you remember this hour. Because bravery without readiness is just a fancy kind of foolish. Some say a knight's worth is measured by his sword arm. But a wiser knight knows his worth begins with how he treats the tools of war. You don't hand your blade to a stranger to clean. You don't let your armor rust while you sip wine. A knight who doesn't touch his own sword will one day be touched by an enemy's. The tradition is old, older than the stories of dragons and oaths. Each morning, you tend to your weapons. Not for pride, not for show, but because it centers you. Because the hilt holds the warmth of your grip. Because the dents in your breastplate tell your story better than any song. Your grandfather taught your father. Your father taught you. Not just the how, but the why. A blade kept by your own hand never betrays. A helm polished with your own cloth never blinds you with grime. There's reverence in the ritual. Not worship of the tool, but respect for the life it protects. Any man can wield a blade, but only a knight loves one enough to care for it daily. When the new squires arrive, they scoff. They expect servants to polish steel, maids to clean blood. But in your chamber, the oil is yours. The edge is yours. Even the quiet is yours. Some call it obsession. You call it preparation. One evening, a visiting noble laughed at your habits. 2 weeks later, he dropped his rusted sword in the mud during a skirmish. You saved him with your spare. He never laughed again. It's not glamour that keeps a knight alive. It's attention, repetition, and a quiet love for the unseen hours spent with steel and cloth. Steel has a memory. If you neglect it, it remembers. It will squeak, catch, rust, fail you. But if you care for it properly, it sings. It gleams, it becomes your shadow. Metal isn't alive, but it punishes like it is. Every knight has a method. Yours? Beeswax for the joints. Boar fat for the hilt. Soot and vinegar paste for the blade, just a pinch. These aren't secrets from scrolls. They're handed down from farriers, smiths, old men with burned hands and sharp eyes. Some whisper that adding garlic oil deters evil spirits. Others say it just smells nice and scares flies. The trick isn't just the ingredients, it's knowing when not to touch. Humidity? Wrap the blade in linen. Snow? Oil twice, once at night, again at dawn. Your saddlebag carries more cleaning cloths than coins. Other knights brag about slaying beasts. You brag about going 10 winters without a single fleck of rust. It's not glamorous, but it keeps you alive. And alive is a good place to be. One old trick you swear by: rub a blade with wool after each polish. Not for shine, but for heat. Steel hates the cold. You even talk to your weapons sometimes. Not because they speak back, but because silence is better when you know it's listening. A well-cared-for sword doesn't just reflect light, it reflects your discipline. Some call it superstition. You call it survival. And you'll keep doing it long after your hair turns silver. The sword has a name. You were told never to speak it aloud unless the blade was drawn. So you don't, not even now. In this family, names hold weight, especially when they're made of steel. Your great-grandfather wielded it in the Southern campaigns. They say he carved through 10 men before it ever dulled. Your father carried it into his first duel and won with 1 cut. You held it at 15. It felt heavy, too heavy. But now, it fits your hand like it was born there. The hilt still has a crack from when it was dropped at a river crossing. You never repaired it. It reminds you the sword, like its wielder, has scars. On stormy nights, you polish it longer. Not to clean, but to remember. The echo of footsteps, the grip of hands now gone. The same blade, the same duty. This isn't just a weapon, it's your family's last witness. Sometimes you swear it hums louder when danger nears. Of course, that's nonsense. Or maybe not. In this world, steel remembers more than people do. You keep the scabbard oiled, the nameplate wrapped. No one else touches it, not even your closest friend. If your armor is your shield, this sword is your story. On your worst days, you grip the blade and whisper a thank you. For surviving, for holding fast, for still gleaming after everything. When you die, this sword will outlive you. You only hope the next hand treats it with the same quiet reverence. Every knight has secrets, but some keep them in the forge. There was one knight in your order, Sir Haldren. Quiet man, always polished, always won. Too polished, some said, too lucky. When someone wins too often, it's not luck, it's knowledge they don't share. One day you followed him, past the training yard, past the chapel, to the blacksmith's quarters. There he met the smith in secret, not for repairs, but for enhancements. The grip weighted, the edge slightly curved, the sheath lined with waxed cloth to pull faster. It wasn't cheating. Not exactly. But it wasn't honorable either. Turns out, he wasn't sharpening his blade. He was sharpening his odds. No one ever confronted him. But now, when you see his victories, they taste different. A little sour, a little smart. You still polish your blade the traditional way. But sometimes you wonder, if it came down to honor or winning, which one would you polish harder? Later, in a quiet moment, the blacksmith told you. Some men fight wars with swords, others with details. You never told anyone, not even your mentor. But you started noticing the little things. A glint of polish where it shouldn't be. A sound too quiet for old hinges. Sometimes the real battlefield is the workshop, and the war is against rust, not men. Haldren left the order a year later. No farewell, no parade. Just silence and a spotless blade left behind. And now, every time you prepare for battle, you wonder, would one small trick make the difference between song and silence? You're not sure, but you keep polishing, just in case. You were taught to wield a sword, but today you wield a chair. Sometimes, justice isn't about battle cries. It's about who speaks last and clearest. The village square is crowded, not with enemies, but neighbors. Two farmers stand before you, red-faced and loud. One claims the other's goat ate his winter cabbage. The goat looks proud, or guilty, hard to say. You sit atop the old stone bench, the chair of hearing. It creaks under your weight, or perhaps under the weight of tradition. The villagers hush when you raise your hand. No armor today, just your tunic, your seal of office, and a heavy sense of duty. A knight may fight dragons, but settling who owns a chicken, that takes real nerve. You begin with questions. Simple, calm. When did the goat escape? Did anyone else see it? A child pipes up. I did, but I fed it an apple. Laughter ripples. The tension softens. Truth has a strange way of sneaking in, right between the giggles. You nod, take notes. Behind you, an elder scratches at his beard. He once sat where you do. He once judged a case of two brothers fighting over a spoon. You think about how odd this life is. Steel in one hand, law in the other. When you finally speak your verdict, it's not dramatic. Just clear? Share the feed bill. Tie the goat, plant new cabbage, together. It's not perfect, but everyone nods. As they leave, one villager bows, not for the sword on your hip, but for the time you took, the calm, the fairness. In that moment, you realize this bench might be heavier than your shield, No one teaches you how to judge a goat, but here you are. Some days, the village court feels like a theater. When swords are sheathed, words become the weapons, and people duel with memories. Today's case, a dispute over a duck. Yes, a duck. A woman claims it was hers since hatching. The man insists it followed him for weeks, by divine favor, he adds. You try not to smile. But the duck waddles in, quacking as if it too has testimony. The villagers chuckle. You hold up your hand again. Then there's the love triangle case. Two young men claim affection for the same girl. She, bold as steel, says she prefers the baker's apprentice. Justice doesn't prepare you for matters of the heart, only for the fallout after. You navigate each moment gently. Less a judge, more a guide. Sometimes, the verdict isn't about right or wrong. It's about helping people save face and keeping the peace, even if it means awarding custody of a duck to the duck. You remember what your mentor once said. The goal is not silence. The goal is harmony. Even the most ridiculous case, an argument over a muddy boot, carries hidden layers of pride, history, and unspoken grief. A dirty shoe might just be grief in disguise. You ask the right questions. Let the silences speak. When you give your decisions, they're light, gentle. Sometimes it's a warning. Sometimes it's a shared solution. You don't want to humiliate anyone. Because in this village, everyone is family or close enough. You're not a lord, not a priest. Just a knight who listens and chooses his words like he once chose where to strike. And when the duck waddles out, free, proud, and unaffiliated, you smile. Not because justice was done, but because peace was preserved. And in a world full of war, that's worth more than gold. Not all cases are simple. Sometimes, tempers rise, voices clash. A knight's calm must be sharper than his blade. There's a process. You ask, you listen. If needed, you inspect the scene, walk the disputed border, touch the broken gate. Your squire keeps records. 2 elders join to witness. Then comes the oath. Each side places a hand on a relic or sword. They swear they're telling the truth. Sometimes the truth is clear. Sometimes it's buried under years of resentment. You can't rush judgment. One wrong word can undo months of peace. Mercy without clarity is weakness, but justice without mercy is war. You weigh the options. Speak softly. Offer a path forward, not backward. And when they accept, when they nod or sigh or cry, you feel lighter. The law isn't written on scrolls. It's spoken here. And it holds because you hold it. You recall an old dispute over an olive tree. It stood on the edge of 2 farms, both claimed by different brothers. You walked the land, listened to stories about childhood swings, shared harvests, even old laughter. The verdict? Cut no roots, share the fruit. Let the tree stand in peace, if the brothers cannot. Some rulings are not solutions, but invitations to begin again. You kept a stone from under that tree. It rests on your desk as a reminder. This duty is sacred. It's not just about laws, it's about lives. Each time you rise from the judgment bench, you leave behind a little of yourself. But you carry forward something more. Respect, balance. even if the world forgets your name. These quiet decisions echo in generations. A knight doesn't need a sword to protect the village. Sometimes he only needs silence and the courage to break it gently. You feel it most when the crowd is silent, when everyone waits, not to argue, but to obey. Wearing armor is easier than wearing judgment. A knight is supposed to be fair, to be wise, to be patient. But you're still human. You still have friends in the village, family. What if the accused is your cousin? Or the accuser is the baker who feeds your horse? You breathe deeply. Remember your oaths. Justice without fear. Mercy without favoritism. The only thing heavier than your sword is your own bias. So you speak slowly, clearly, and you say what needs to be said, even if it costs you a friendship. They may grumble, but in time they'll see, because fairness, like steel, doesn't need to be liked. It only needs to be trusted. Years ago, you judged a dispute between two brothers. It split the family. They haven't spoken since. You still wonder, was it your words that failed? Or just a wound too old to heal? Even the best sword can't mend what the heart won't hold. You think of that case every time you hear the blacksmith hum the old tune. The same tune their father used to sing. Being fair doesn't mean being right. It means trying. It means choosing to stand between emotion and duty and not flinch. You reread the laws by candlelight, not to memorize, but to remind that every person who stands before you deserves your best. And when the day ends, when the verdicts are done, you return to your chamber, wash your hands, and hope they've stayed clean. Justice is never perfect, but you still believe it's worth carrying, even when it's heavier than chainmail. Some days, you leave the bench drained, not from battle, but from empathy. The hardest wounds to heal are invisible. You pass the stables. A child runs up to you, hands you a folded note. Thank you, it says. No name, no signature, just a pressed flower tucked inside. You smile. Later, your squire asks, would you rather fight a war or settle a land dispute? You don't answer, because you've done both. And only one left scars you still dream about. A sword leaves marks on flesh. A verdict leaves marks on hearts. You hang up your robe, place your seal in its box, and breathe out the dust of the day. Tomorrow, another dispute will come. Another cry for fairness. Another goat, another lie. Another truth hidden in silence. You'll be ready, because sometimes the battlefield isn't out there. It's right here. And justice is your armor. After a day of training, judgment, and duty comes laughter. Even a knight needs to unwind. In the great hall, torches flicker, the hearth glows. Benches creak as knights, squires, and cooks gather. A wooden board is set. Carved pieces click into place. Chess? Not quite. It's tabula, a game of strategy and chance. Nearby, two squires toss iron rings toward a wooden peg. The clang of a hit earns cheers. A miss earns jeers. Laughter follows every throw. In the corner, a group hums in rhythm. A call and response song about a mischievous stable boy and a goat that got loose in the pantry. The goat won the game that day by escaping through the kitchen firewood. Games are more than fun. They are release. They are connection. In this hall, rank fades. A knight might lose to a kitchen maid at dice, and no one minds. Tonight, the war is paused. Only mirth matters. The fire crackles louder than steel. And that, for now, is victory enough. Even the castle dog joins, tail wagging, eyes begging near the table of scraps. Someone pulls out a lute. The strings sing, and voices join in a bawdy tune that's older than the kingdom. You can tell a realm's peace by the volume of its laughter. No gold is bet tonight. Just pride, and maybe the last piece of candied apple from supper. The knight beside you loses a round and groans. I'd rather face 5 bandits than your clever hands. You bow. The torchlight glints off your polished sleeve. Tomorrow you'll be warriors again. But tonight, you are just people. Playing, laughing, living, and in a world where battles never rest for long, this moment is sacred. Sacred like prayer. But louder. The clatter of forks gives way to fiddles. Dinner has ended, plates scraped clean, mugs drained. Now the feast of sound begins. The great hall fills with echoes. Not of sermons or orders, but of stories. One knight leaps atop the bench. Not to fight, to perform. He spins a tale about getting lost in a noble lady's garden, only to be chased by a swan who thought he was trespassing. The crowd roars. A maid claps along to the beat. The cook whistles. Even the grizzled old captain allows a chuckle. In this place, no one wears a helmet, but everyone wears a grin. A traveling bard joins in, plucking a tune about a foolish prince who mistook a beehive for a crown. The laughter is contagious. For 1 hour, no one worries about defense walls or spilled blood. Only lyrics and punchlines. Even the shadows on the wall dance. The night air smells of stew, sweat, and burnt candle ends. But it is warm, safe, human. And when the story ends, you exhale as if from battle. Victorious in joy. Someone tosses a crust of bread toward the bard. He catches it with a grin and bows low. Not for payment, but for praise. Laughter is the one currency that always doubles when shared. The fire pops. You lean back, sip watered ale, and let your limbs go slack. Around you, voices blend like stew, warm, layered, oddly comforting. This is how knights stay sane. Not just with training, but with these pauses. These sweet, ridiculous pauses, where nothing matters but the next rhyme or rhyme gone wrong. You forget your armor. You forget your rank. You remember how to breathe. And the hall? It remembers too. That joy is louder than war. At least for tonight. A rested mind swings a sharper sword. Not all strength comes from steel. Some comes from the belly, aching with laughter, or the chest, lifted by song. Knights train their bodies. But this? This is training for the spirit. A joke whispered in your ear before bed. A game of dice played in secret during patrol. A limerick passed down from your squire like sacred scripture. They matter. What good is a strong sword arm if your spirit feels brittle? One knight once told you, I survived the siege not from food, but from our silly songs. The mind, like a shield, needs polish. And this nightly revel is that cloth. Even the lord of the castle joins sometimes. Plays badly, loses loudly, but leaves smiling wider than any battle victory. These games don't just fill time. They protect it. They remind each of you that beyond armor, there is heart. And heart wins wars too. Tonight's favorite, a game where losers must recite compliments to their rivals. A squire blushes as he tells the stable master, "Your horse-brushing skills are majestic." The hall bursts again. Dignity is a helmet. Humor is the plume on top. These moments shape trust. Not just in each other's swordplay, but in laughter, in forgiveness, in being human. The bonds forged in jest sometimes last longer than those forged in iron. You smile and tuck the moment into memory, like a small talisman against the next hard day. Because the next hard day will come. But tonight, you've already won something. Yourself. Some knights lose battles, others lose singing contests. It's your turn now. You rolled snake eyes on the dice. Cheers erupt around the table. A deal's a deal. You clear your throat, rise from the bench, and begin. A knight once rode with iron pride. The hall hushes, but fell off his horse with pants too wide. Laughter explodes. Someone tosses a cabbage. You bow deeply. Humiliation tastes sweeter when shared with friends. Another squire is dared to dance. He stomps and spins like a goose with one leg. The bard starts up a jig. Soon, even the grumpiest knight is tapping a boot. This is your court now. A place where foolishness reigns. And joy is law. You laugh until your sides ache. And in that ache, something releases. The weight of command. The tension of duty. Gone. For now. Because no matter how serious life becomes, every night needs a night. To be silly. In the right hall, every embarrassment becomes a memory worth keeping. Even the steward joins in, clapping offbeat, red-faced with mirth. A flickering candle nearly snuffs out from the force of your final spin. But you steady it, barely. The room howls. A knight beside you whispers, "Best move I've seen all week, and we fenced yesterday." The fire pops. Your cheeks hurt. You sit down, sweaty and beaming. No scars tonight. Just stories. And tomorrow, this will be another tale passed down. Proof that even warriors can laugh like fools and still rise at dawn. Victory, it seems, wears many faces. What if the loudest laugh tonight saves your life tomorrow? There's something strange about how the joy lingers, how the warmth stays in your chest long after the fire cools. You remember your commander's words. A knight who laughs with his brothers won't flee beside them. Trust is forged in silly dares, in shared songs, in cabbage-tossing contests gone horribly wrong. Camaraderie is not just a feeling, it's armor you cannot see. Tomorrow, you ride out. There may be blood, mud, steel against steel. But tonight, you know the knight beside you snorts when he laughs, that the cook can rhyme anything with potato. that your squire sings off-key but with heart. You know them, and they know you. And that knowledge? That shared absurdity? It's the glue of courage. When the arrows come, you'll stand fast. Not just for honor, but for these moments, these nights. Because once you've danced like a chicken in front of your lord, charging into battle feels less frightening. And that is no small gift. In the clatter of dice, you sometimes hear the echo of bravery. Someone hums the evening's tune as you clean your plate. You catch yourself humming, too. And you realize your shoulders have dropped. Your breath is deeper. You're ready, not just for war, but for life. Because what good is surviving if you forget how to live? The fire dims, the hall quiets, and the song ends. But inside you, the warmth stays. Not from armor, but from joy. The kind that doesn't fade with dawn. You hear it before you see it. The whir of arrows slicing morning air. Then the beat of hooves over frozen grass. It's early, and the field smells like iron and frost. The sky still holds a bit of night. But the nights are already up. And now, so are you. Today is no ordinary training. Today is the outdoor drill. You stretch beside your horse, arms stiff from yesterday. A wooden bow hangs across your shoulder. Your breath comes out in small white clouds. It's cold. It's loud. And it's glorious. You notch your arrow. Take aim at the straw man across the field. Breathe in. Release. The arrow flies. A little low, but better than last time. You nod, quietly proud. Even the horse seems to approve. Mini hook. Some lessons start with the sound of hooves before you even open your eyes. The cavalry drill begins just past sunrise. Not a shout, not a horn, just the low rhythm of horse hooves. On frozen grass. You hold the reins tight, your breath misting out in clouds. Beside you, a younger rider tries to adjust their stirrups mid-canter. And nearly slips. No one laughs. Not yet. Mini hook. In this world, falling isn't funny, unless you stand back up. You trot across the paddock, weaving between barrels. Then break into a gallop. Every turn sharpens your focus. Every jolt hammers your spine. Your horse huffs and pushes on, as if it too wants to win the invisible prize. You ride not just to move, but to master motion. It's more dance than war, more whisper than shout. And when it clicks, when you and your horse move as one, it feels less like training and more like flying. You reach the final post. A command echoes behind you, halt. Your horse responds before your hand even tightens the reins. This is trust, earned through every grooming session. Every apple shared in silence. A nearby knight dismounts and pats his horse's neck. You two looked like a storm, he says. You grin because today the storm obeyed you. Mini hook, among knights, the bond with a horse is the one vow that never breaks. Mini hook, the only thing sharper than a sword, is the silence before it strikes. Mock duels are loud, but the moments before they start are quieter than prayer. You and your opponent stand 10 paces apart. Wooden swords in hand, breath held, feet braced. A nod is the signal. There is no countdown. The first clash is always a surprise. Your wrist stings. Their shield thuds against your shoulder. Mini hook. It's not about strength. It's about reading a person faster than they can read you. You duck, swing low, twist your blade in a circle like you practiced. You nearly catch them off guard, but they recover fast. You both step back, circle, again and again. This is not a fight. It's a dance made of bruises and instincts. The crowd of squires and knights watches in near silence. Not from disinterest, but out of respect. Respect for the risk, the rhythm, and the restraint. You're not trying to win. You're trying to improve, to fall without fear, and rise with precision. A nearby knight claps once, signaling the end of the round. You and your opponent lower your weapons, exchange a respectful bow. There's no scorecard, no winner. Only bruises. And a lesson. Mini hook. The real prize isn't victory, it's knowing what not to do next time. Later, while rubbing your sore elbow with vinegar-soaked cloth, you replay the match in your head. What worked, what didn't. And you smile. Because tomorrow, you get to do it all again. Mini hook. The only thing louder than a war cry might be the sound of knights laughing mid-fall. The next drill looks chaotic from afar, but it's just controlled chaos. Pairs of squires wrestle in the dirt. Others dodge weighted sacks swinging from ropes. One boy is already limping from a bruised shin. And yet, everyone grins. Mini hook, because here, falling down is part of the curriculum. A knight calls for a spear rush. You grab a padded pole and sprint. Your partner charges too. You both collide, bounce off each other, and fall hard. For a moment, there's silence. Then laughter. Not just yours. Even the trainer chuckles. Before shouting, again. The field smells like sweat and soil. Shins muddy, elbows scraped. It's ridiculous and perfect. This is where camaraderie is forged. Not in the hall, not on the field of war, but here, where bruises become inside jokes, and tumbles become trust. Mini hook, some of your best friends, will first knock the wind out of you. You sit for a moment in the shade of the barracks wall, sipping watered cider from a tin cup. Your ribs ache, but your grin lingers. A boy beside you nudges your arm. Your landing looked like a sack of flour, he teases. You laugh, and somehow that sting in your shoulder feels less sharp. Mini hook, pain fades, but the laughter, that sticks for life. The sun is higher now. Its light stings your eyes. Its heat sticks to your tunic. You sit on the fence post with a bandaged hand, watching others finish the last drills. A knight walks past, nodding toward your shoulder. "That's a good one," he says, pointing at the fresh bruise. You smile, because he means it as praise. Mini hook. In this place, pain isn't punishment, it's progress. The morning ends with a final charge. 12 squires on horseback thunder across the field, stirring dust and delight. You raise a fist as they pass, not as a cheer, but a promise. That next time, you'll be riding with them. You breathe deep. The air tastes like leather, iron, and pride. And somewhere deep inside, beneath the aching ribs and sore feet, you know something quiet and important. You're getting better. And for now, that is enough. You look over at the others, mud-streaked, bruised, limping, and yet every face shines with the same fire. A boy tosses you a damp cloth. You catch it with your bandaged hand, hiss a little, then laugh. I think the training dummy won, he jokes. You nod. Let's not tell the dummy. Mini hook. Every scar from today is tomorrow's story, told with pride, over supper. The bell rings from the castle wall. Training is done. For now, the morning fog still clings to the stone walls when your boots touch the ground. The air is thick with dew, and the faint scent of yesterday's fire lingers in the wind. You're already in armor, light today, just a breastplate and chain sleeves. No jousting, no parades. This morning is for duty. Not all battles begin with swords. Some begin with silence. You pass through the east gate with 2 squires trailing behind. They struggle to stay quiet, their footsteps clumsy on gravel. You say nothing, just glance over your shoulder. The outer wall wraps around the village like an old, watchful dog. You follow it slowly, scanning every gap in the mortar. Was that crack there last week? You make a mental note to check again after rain. A raven lands on the post above the gate. It caws once, then flies off, spooked by nothing you can see. You tighten your grip on the leather strap across your chest. Not because you're afraid. Because you've learned that nothing happening is sometimes the most dangerous sign. Midway through your patrol, you stop at the granary. Your gloved hand tests the iron latch, still locked. The guard inside nods through the slit in the wooden door. You nod back. No words exchanged, just trust. Peace is not the absence of danger. It's the product of watchful routine. You leave the granary behind and make your way to the livestock pens. A cow moves from behind a wooden gate, its breath forming clouds in the cold air. The stable boy waves at you. You raise a hand, then pause. One of the pens is ajar. You step closer. No signs of theft, no prints in the dirt. But the latch looks worn, chewed at the edges. Bad sign. Sometimes your enemy doesn't wear boots. It growls and comes at night. You crouch low to study the scratch marks. Too high for a rat, too deep for a goat. A wolf? You glance toward the tree line just beyond the fence. The woods are still, too still. You turn to the squire beside you, have a message sent to the huntsman. You say. He nods and runs off. Your hand rests on the hilt of your sword. Not to draw it, just to remember it's there. Because guarding a village isn't just about invaders or thieves. It's about the silent things. With teeth and timing, you tighten the strap on your glove and walk on. A knight's true test isn't always a blade, it's a neighbor's complaint. You arrive at the village square. Children are chasing a rooster, their laughter echoing off stone walls. A baker leans out of her window and spots you. She frowns, wipes her hands on her apron, marches toward you. Sir, she says, someone's been stealing eggs from my coop again. You nod solemnly, though it's hardly a matter for swords. Still, you listen. You always listen. She suspects the miller's youngest son. Says he walks funny when he lies. You promise to look into it. Not because you're the village judge, but because your presence calms things before they grow teeth. People sleep better knowing someone's listening, even if he carries a sword. From behind, a man calls out. His fence was trampled. He thinks it's the neighbor's cow. But he also suspects a ghost. You let that one slide. You jot notes on a wax tablet, hand it off to the squire. A boy approaches, holding something in a rag. A feather and a bit of broken eggshell. He says nothing, just offers it like a clue. You smile. We're making progress. Authority without kindness is just noise in metal boots. As the sun climbs, your route takes you to the village's outer edge. There, a boy with a bruised shin points to the orchard. Men with carts were here last night, he says. Didn't recognize him. You don't scold. You kneel down, ask what he saw. He remembers a cartwheel missing a spoke. That helps. You rise slowly, armor creaks. Then signal the guard nearby to inspect the paths for tracks. Even the smallest witness might carry the biggest clue. A grandmother pulls you aside. She offers a cup of herbal tea. You accept. You sip. And suddenly, your whole body exhales. She asks nothing, says only, you walk heavy. Rest when you can. You nod. Moments later, a woman with 3 children comes by. She just wants you to know her door doesn't lock well. You write that down too. No task too small when peace depends on hinges and latches. The smoke from a weaver's pot trails gently skyward. You nod to her. She nods back. Just lunch, but you checked anyway. A knight must wear steel, but today you wear patience. Not all emergencies are loud. Some arrive disguised as gossip. It's nearly dusk now. The sun throws long shadows across the stone road as you pass the western gate. A crowd has gathered near the well. You step in gently, not with force, just presence. The chatter fades as they make room. It's the poultry keeper, again. He claims a thief took one of his prized hens. This is the 3rd time he's made such a claim. But tonight, there's a feather trail. Even a chicken feather can lead to a sleepless village. You follow it across the lane, past the tannery, to the carpenter's shed. A boy stands there, holding the hen, his cheeks red, eyes low. You sigh, kneel down. This your bird? You ask. He nods. Why? He mumbles. She looked cold and hungry. You pause. Then take his hand, guide him back to the crowd. No shame, just a lesson. You speak softly to the poultry keeper. The boy will help clean coops for a week. Someone offers him a roll. The hen settles. Mercy, when quiet, still changes everything. You leave the castle through the east gate. No ceremony, no escort, just you, your boots, and the road. The sky has softened into a quiet blue, and your shadow walks beside you, long and loyal. Some afternoons don't need purpose, only permission. You nod to the guard. He nods back. Outside, the world opens into a patchwork of meadows and stone paths. The breeze smells of barley and smoke. Far ahead, a hay cart creaks downhill, its driver humming something off-key. It's the hour when life exhales. You pass the well, where a girl lowers a bucket with the seriousness of a queen. She glances up, sees your sword, and curtsies too deeply. You tip your head, No need to spill the water. She giggles, writes herself. Mini hook. Some greetings weigh more than a handshake, especially when they come with splashes. You visit the blacksmith first. His forge breathes in bursts. He wipes his brow with a wrist of soot and grins. Your stirrup pin's ready. I added a touch of pride to the polish. The piece gleams like a coin under firelight. You nod. Payment is trust, more than silver. In this town, every nail has a story. You cross through the small square. The shoemaker waves. The baker hands you a slightly burned loaf, your usual. Mini hook. Even legends need bread, preferably crusty and free. A boy selling kindling tugs at your cape. Any monsters today? Sir Knight? Only the ones that burn the toast, you say. He grins. Hope they don't win. Past the chapel, you see Father Armand arranging books too carefully to be casual. He sees you. Still owe me a sparrow's tale. You promised once to return a parable from the battlefield. You forgot. I'll bring one, you say, freshly feathered. He laughs. Make it fly. You head toward the orchard path. Peach trees are heavy, lazy in the sun. Birds pretend to be brave, fluttering near, then darting away. You step over roots and loose cobbles, each one a reminder the land has history under your feet. Mini hook. The path remembers even if your boots forget. By the field's bend, a farmer stops you. Someone stole 2 hens last night, he mutters. Feathers all over, no prints. You squat beside the coop. Fox? Ferret? Foolish drunk? Hard to tell, but you promise to check near the woods at dusk. Sometimes justice is just noticing. The farmer thanks you with a bruised apple. You eat it anyway. It tastes like sour and effort. 2 children run past, shouting about ghosts in the well. You ask if the ghosts left a message. Just bubbles, they say. You nod. That's how the dead laugh. They shriek with glee. Mini hook. Fear, in small doses, keeps the world exciting. A cart stuck in mud tilts just outside town. You kneel, wedge a stone beneath its wheel. The driver thanks you with a look heavier than a coin. I lost my brother last harvest. He says, you knew him. You nod. You did. You remember him chasing frogs barefoot. You don't say it, but the silence says enough. At the edge of the town, you find the watchtower. Empty for now. You climb halfway for the view. From here, roofs gleam like scales. The castle behind you, the woods ahead. Somewhere, a hawk spins, tracing circles like questions. A young woman brings her grandmother to sit in the shade. They wave. You wave back. You don't know them well, but they know you. Sometimes reputation is just showing up. Mini hook. A quiet presence can outshine the loudest trumpet. You head back slowly. The baker's boy runs up again. There's jam in the burned loaf, he whispers. You raise a brow. Strawberry? He shrugs. Surprise. Life is like that. As the sun lowers, the light grows sideways. Shadows stretch. You hear a lute from somewhere you can't place. You don't try to find it. Some music is meant to float. Mini hook. The best notes are the ones you don't chase. At the castle gate, the guard opens the door without asking. You step inside, boots a little dustier, heart a little lighter. You didn't slay dragons today. But you fed stories, lifted carts, listened to sorrow. Sometimes a knight's greatest battles have no blood. You climb the chapel steps quietly, not because anyone's sleeping, just out of respect. The doors are already open. A candle flickers by the altar. Father Aldrich sits with a book too big for his lap, one finger tracing the margins like he's following a path. He doesn't look up. If it's about war, he says, leave your sword at the door. You smile and remove your belt. The steel clinks against the stone like coins in a bowl. He nods without looking. You sit across from him. The chapel smells of wax, old wood, and ink. You mention your concern, a land dispute, or a soldier's betrayal, or something you still don't have words for. He listens the way a tree does, quietly, completely. When he speaks, it's not answers he offers, but more questions. Who does this hurt? What does honor mean, if only one side believes in it? You thank him. He returns to the page. Bring back your sword, he says, but keep it lighter. Before you leave, you glance at the margins of the book he's reading. Tiny notes, sketches of birds, stars, and once a knight kneeling. Even wisdom needs somewhere to wander. Outside, the air feels cooler. Not because of wind, because you let something go without even noticing. And for a moment, the world feels just a little more answerable. The chapel bell echoes once as you step inside the quiet study. There, Brother Matthias waits, not with scrolls, but with silence. He gestures to a bench. Sit, if you're not in a hurry. Truth prefers patience. He brings out a small wooden board, carved with Latin proverbs. Each day, he selects one for reflection. Today's is simple. Gloria tardat, sed venit. Glory comes slowly, but it comes. He tells you of a knight who refused vengeance after being insulted at court. He waited years, and when his rival fell from grace, he offered him food, not scorn. Which one looks more like a victor? Matthias asks. You don't answer. The lesson's already doing its work. He explains that honor isn't loud. It isn't banners and horns. It's a decision made when no one watches. You share your doubts about a comrade's betrayal or your own temper. He nods, then starts small. Hold back once, then again. That's how peace begins. He hands you a scrap of parchment with today's line. Glory comes slowly. You fold it and keep it next to your heart. The sun filters through stained glass, casting red and blue shadows on the floor. You kneel before the prayer alcove, an old habit when decisions loom. Not out of superstition, but tradition. Before campaigns, treaties, or even personal vows, many knights come here first. Not to ask what to do, but to ask how to live with what they choose. You light a stick of incense. The smell is sharp, cedar and clove. It curls like a question into the rafters. Father Aldrich joins you, holding a brass bowl. Inside are stones, each carved with symbols. He lets you draw one at random. Yours shows a scale, balance. A reminder, he says, that your actions will tip something. Make sure it's not someone's peace. He tells of a time a noble knight prayed here, then changed his mind about a duel. He wrote a letter instead. It ended a feud without a blade. You sit a moment longer. Not for answers, but for calm. And when you rise, you feel a little steadier. Before you leave, you look again at the incense drifting skyward. You think of your father. of choices he never got to make, of roads that led here through fire, frost, and forgiveness. You don't know if the gods hear you, but you hear yourself, and maybe that's enough. You return after dusk, not for guidance, but for stories. Brother Matthias is sipping weak wine, sorting through old papers by candlelight. He looks up and grins. Too much clarity earlier? Time for chaos? He tells you of a knight who couldn't ride a horse straight, but won 3 duels by tripping. Another who forgot his sword, but talked his enemy into surrender with a poem. And one who prayed before every battle, but never during dinner. When asked why, Matthias says, he answered, "Hunger is holy too." You laugh, then pause. These aren't just tales, they're maps, showing how others found their way in the dark. He offers you an apple. Wiser men than me said, an empty stomach makes a full mind. You take a bite. It's sharp, sweet, and oddly grounding. The fire crackles behind you. He leans back and says, "Want to hear the one about the priest, the duck, and the wine barrel?" You shake your head, but stay seated. Some wisdom can wait till laughter's done. Before you leave, he adds one more story about a knight who gave his horse to a peasant and walked back to the castle barefoot. They called him foolish, Matthias says, but the next winter, the peasant saved his life. You nod. Not all battles are won with steel, some with simple kindness. Outside, the stars begin to show. And somehow, they look more familiar than before. It was a winter not unlike this one. The castle low on grain, tensions high. A young knight, barely older than you are now, sought advice from Brother Matthias. He asked if he should ride out and demand supplies from a bordering lord. "Wait 3 days," the priest said. The knight didn't understand, but obeyed. On the 2nd day, a blizzard closed every road. On the 3rd, a message arrived. The border lord had died suddenly. A war nearly sparked, by accident, was avoided, by patience. The knight would later tell this story to his sons. And their sons would speak of it as a turning point in their family's fortune. Not a sword raised, not a banner flown, just a breath held. You stare at the stone floor of the chapel. You wonder how many wars were buried before they began. Brother Matthias closes his book. The hardest advice to follow, he says, is the quiet kind. You bow your head and walk back through the heavy doors, carrying no sword, only thought. As you walk through the courtyard, the snow has just begun to fall. It melts on your face, each flake, an echo of decisions not made, of tempers cooled, of wisdom passed hand to hand like flame in the dark. You look back once. The chapel light still glows. Not bright, but enough to guide the next one in. The scream came just before the church bell. A sharp, slicing sound, too sudden for prayer, too late for preparation. Sir Elric dropped the apple he was peeling. It rolled across the stone floor. Forgotten. Outside, smoke was rising, not from a chimney, from the granary. By the time he reached the gates, the chaos had already bloomed, a barrel overturned, straw catching flame, 3 villagers shouting different things, none of them helpful. The baker's son was trying to stomp out the fire with bare feet. A pig ran through the square with a scarf in its mouth. Chaos has a sense of humor. Elric didn't draw his sword. He didn't need to. Instead, he shouted for the well buckets, split the villagers into lines, and began dousing with what little water remained from the morning's wash. Flames licked the sky but didn't reach the storehouse. Not today. By the end, his hair was singed, boots soaked, and a goat had bitten him on the sleeve. Not heroic, but effective. He sat on a stone and laughed, because if he didn't, he might cry. Trouble never asks permission. It just arrives, mid-bite, mid-laugh, mid-life. And it's in those moments, not on battlefields, where courage quietly announces itself. By midday, the smoke had settled, but the tension hadn't. Sir Elric walked through the village square like a thread trying to stitch everything back together. A child clung to his leg. A woman waved a broom accusingly at her neighbor. Someone was missing a chicken. This wasn't combat. It was confusion. And confusion spreads faster than fire. He spoke clearly, slowly, not with commands, but with calm. One voice at a time, he rebuilt order. Two brothers arguing over a broken fence were handed a shared hammer. A bruised arm was bandaged, not blamed. A cart was pushed upright by 6 hands who'd nearly come to blows moments before. What people forget is this: a knight isn't just a sword. He's also a bridge. Between panic and plan, between fear and function, Elric didn't have to fix everything. He just had to stop it from getting worse. He made notes for tomorrow: more buckets near the stables, assign a fire watch, rotate well duties. Peace isn't passive, it's planned. As the crowd thinned, an old man offered him bread. "You did well, lad," he said. Elric smiled. He hadn't swung a weapon all day, and still felt like he'd fought a war. Not every rescue looks like a painting. Take this one, a cow stuck halfway through a fence, bellowing like a trumpet. 2 young boys pulling its tail, one crying, the other laughing. And Sir Elric, still damp from the granary fire, now ankle-deep in mud. No sword, no glory, just grunts, rope burns, and the smell of wet fur. He pulled, he pushed, he muttered to the cow like it understood. Eventually, with a mighty snort, it stumbled free, taking Elric's cloak with it. The boys cheered. The cow trotted off like nothing had happened. Elric stood in his socks, cloak ruined, hair full of hay. Sometimes saving the day, smells like cow. Then there was the time he tried to break up a tavern fight, only to be mistaken for a brawler and punched in the ear by a blacksmith's wife. He didn't draw his blade, he bought her a cider. That's the truth of it. Knights aren't always graceful. Dignity doesn't survive ale and barnyards. But dignity isn't the point. Presence is being there, trying, failing sometimes, but staying. No one remembers the perfect rescues. They remember the muddy ones. The ones where a man in armor helps pull a stuck cart with bare hands and gets thanked not for strength, but for showing up. By sundown, the village was quieter. Not peaceful, just quieter. Children sat on fences instead of climbing them. The baker's wife swept ashes from her doorstep. And Sir Elric, still wearing soot-streaked armor, watched as a young couple patched the roof they'd argued about all month. It's funny, he thought. Chaos exposes the cracks. But it also shows who steps forward with mortar. One elder approached with a bowl of soup and said, "We fought today, then forgave." A handshake was shared where once there had been harsh words. The fire didn't just burn wood. It burned bitterness, and what rose in its place was understanding. Elric leaned against the well. His body ached in places he didn't know had names. But his heart? It felt strangely lighter. Some days don't make sense until dusk arrives. He remembered the shouting, the stumbling, the unscripted stumbles of the morning. But now they lived inside stories that would be told over hearths for weeks. Not as failures, but as turning points. Moments where people remembered what it meant to be a village, what it meant to carry each other, to bend without breaking, and what it meant to have someone show up, even if they smelled like goat. They called him brave, but Sir Elric didn't feel brave. He felt tired, soot-covered, bruised, slightly embarrassed that a chicken had chased him into the grain shed. Still, when the mayor offered thanks, Elric bowed with grace. A knight's dignity, even in disorder. Even heroes have off days. Some are just more feathered than others. That night at supper, the stories flew faster than arrows. The pig with the scarf became a dragon. The cow a noble beast. The chicken? Legendary. Elric laughed, and when he laughed, the others did too. Not because the stories were accurate, but because they reminded everyone that courage isn't perfection. It's presence. It's trying. Sometimes the test isn't on a battlefield, but in how you treat a panicked neighbor, a frightened child, a stubborn goat. He looked out the window. The village glowed with candlelight. People were safe. And he was enough. No medals. No songs. Just a story with soot and hay. And the quiet certainty that tomorrow, if trouble came again, he'd stand up. Again. The hall came alive the moment dusk touched the towers. A low orange light spilled through the narrow windows as stewards moved swiftly between long oaken tables. Fires in the hearth roared louder than the talk until the food arrived. The scent was thick, roasted boar glazed in honey, spiced carrots, garlic-rubbed flatbread, and warm apple pudding with buttered cream. A jug of mulled wine passed from hand to hand, steaming slightly. Elric stepped inside, armor shed but posture intact. He inhaled deeply. No battlefield ever smelled this good. A hound darted past his leg, chasing a dropped crust. Someone was already laughing too loud in the corner, and the bard hadn't even started yet. They say soldiers eat in silence, but knights? Knights eat with legends. The hall wasn't just for eating. It was where tensions cooled and alliances warmed, sometimes over something as simple as a shared crust. Elric noticed an old friend from another campaign seated farther down. They exchanged a silent nod, one that said, "Still breathing?" Sometimes that's all that mattered. The flicker of torches turned every goblet into gold, every wrinkle into a story. No one was just a guest here. Everyone had survived something. Everyone carried a tale. Elric sat mid-table. Not low enough to miss the good wine, not high enough to be asked for a speech. Around him, knights, pages, squires, and noble guests fell into their rhythms, clinking cups, nodding to servants, elbowing each other over half-remembered tales. A steward offered him a cut of meat nearly the size of his fist. He nodded gratefully. As he chewed, he watched the others. Old Sir Gawain was telling a story again. Yes, the one with the milkmaid and the mysterious goose. Every knight had heard it 5 times, but it still earned chuckles. Some stories taste better the more times you chew them, like stew left overnight. Somewhere near the fireplace, a lute plucked out the first notes of a tune half the hall seemed to know. A slow, lilting melody about a river maiden and a sword lost in the tide. Elric sipped again, his fingers tracing the rim of the cup. Wine softened voices and hearts, and loosened tongues. It made secrets feel safe in the dark corners of a room built to echo. The squire finally told his joke. It flopped. But the table laughed anyway, because kindness was sometimes louder than cleverness. As plates were cleared and platters replaced, the stories thickened like gravy. A visiting monk told a tale of a ghost that haunted a millstone. A lady described a dream where her cat turned into a knight. Even the quietest servants leaned in, sleeves paused in mid-wipe. Children sat 2 benches down, eyes wide. One tried to mimic a knight's voice and nearly spilled a bowl of soup. A roar of laughter followed, and a gentle hand caught the bowl just in time. In the great hall, age shrank. Every adult became a child when the story was good enough. The monk's voice dropped for effect. The ghost had apparently whispered names in the night, real names. A shiver ran through the children. One little girl clutched her napkin like a shield. A server added more wood to the fire, but not before making the sign of protection. Elric had heard the tale before, but it still made his neck prickle. Not because of the ghost, but because of the name it once whispered. His name, or someone who bore it. But even joy has etiquette. A knight who interrupted the lord's cousin was never invited back. A squire who sat too far up the table might find himself polishing helmets for a week. And heaven forbid someone forget to rise when the lady of the house passed through the hall. The sharpest blades in the castle weren't swords, they were glances from noble women. Even laughter followed rules. If the lord's dog barked, you paused. If the jester bowed, you clapped. The codes weren't written, but break one, and you'd feel it. Once, a visiting noble laughed too hard at the wrong moment and found his tent outside the next night. Reputation was like wine, one spill, and the stain might never leave. Elric's hand brushed the table, feeling the grooves, the age. This wood had seen more than he ever would. Then it happened. Every great hall has one of these moments. The fire dimmed as if by cue. The Lord stood, lifted his cup, but didn't drink. He looked down the table, eyes scanning like a general. Then he spoke. He didn't shout. His voice was steady, low but clear. He told of a knight who once lied on the battlefield to protect a traitor, who spared a life, only to regret it later, who kept a secret that cost him his title, but earned him peace. The real battles happen in silence, around fire, not steel. Dessert was pear pie, crisp and warm, served with melted cheese. But no one reached for it. The story the Lord told settled like fog. Elric stared at his plate. Somewhere in that story, he recognized himself or who he might become. The hall was quiet. Not with fear, with reflection. Sometimes the fiercest truths wore the gentlest clothes. And that's what made them linger. When the laughter returned, it was softer, more human. The kind that came after weathering something invisible. The kind that bound people tighter than iron. The great hall dimmed. The voices faded. The clatter of platters gave way to the hush of stone steps. And at last, Elric found himself alone. His chamber wasn't large. A wooden bed, a low shelf of books, a writing desk by a small arched window. But in this quiet, it felt vast. No armor. No duty. Just thoughts. He lit a candle, watching the wick bloom like a tiny sun. This was the hour for unspoken things. He reached for his leather-bound journal. Its cover was stained from years of travel, battles, spilled ink, and rain. Elric opened it slowly. The pages smelled like old wood and fire smoke. Each line from nights before stared back at him, like echoes of versions past. He dipped his quill, hesitated, then wrote, "I was wrong about the baker's boy. He's quicker than he looks." One small truth. It was enough. Sometimes, the bravest thing isn't charging into battle, it's being honest on parchment. With his armor stacked neatly in the corner, Elric rolled his shoulders. The absence of weight almost hurt. The iron had pressed his back all day. Now it pulsed with the memory. He rubbed the sore spot beneath his right shoulder blade. Taking off armor was like taking off identity. Naked wasn't the body. Naked was being a man without his metal shell. He sat on the edge of his bed, bare feet on cold stone. The silence buzzed. He could hear his heartbeat. Not loud, but there, alive. He closed his eyes and breathed in the wax, the parchment, the evening. He whispered, "Still here." That was enough for today. Some nights are made for healing, not in body, but in thought. His gaze shifted to the window. Out there, the village slept under mist. Chimneys curled white ribbons into black skies. A wolf might howl far off. But tonight it didn't. Elric returned to the desk and resumed writing. He wrote about Sir Bannon's clumsy toast, the child who mimicked a knight's salute, the way the cook added too much nutmeg again. Small things. The things worth remembering. A knight doesn't only fight dragons. He notices who didn't speak at dinner. He reached into the drawer and pulled out a letter. The parchment was thin, folded in quarters, sealed with wax. From his sister. He opened it gently, careful not to tear the edges. Inside, soft script danced across the page. She had included a pressed violet. Faded, but still whole. "Do you still sing when no one's around?" she asked. He smiled. "Not lately, but maybe soon. Sometimes, the voice only returns when the armor is gone." He penned a short reply. Told her of the pear pie, the village boy's prank, the sunrise 2 days ago. He didn't mention the battle drills, the bruises, the doubt. Not tonight. Tonight was for softness. He sealed the letter and placed it near the door. Tomorrow, a page would carry it to the postwriter. Then he opened another drawer. Inside were little tokens, a feather, a coin, a strip of ribbon, a tiny horseshoe. Each one held a story. He didn't need to read them. He remembered them. He just needed to touch them. Like holding on to whispers. Every night has a secret shelf of soul anchors. He stretched once more, fingers laced behind his head. Candlelight danced across the wall, casting his shadow like a silent squire. The night had cooled. He slipped beneath the linen blanket, pulling it to his chest. The journal remained on the desk, its last page still damp with fresh ink. The final line read, "Today I was a little more myself. I hope that's enough." And in the end, that's what history is. Not carved stone. Not victory chants. But a line, in a room, in a moment like this. He exhaled. Slow. Soft. The kind of breath you only take when nothing more needs to be said. You sit alone in the corner of your chamber, the glow of a dying torch flickering against your breastplate. It's quiet, almost reverent. One by one, you lay out your tools, sword, dagger, greaves, helmet. Each piece is wiped clean with a cloth that smells faintly of beeswax and smoke. You don't polish them for beauty, but for reliability. Every dent a memory, every scratch a warning. Some knights hire squires for this. But not you. There's something deeply human about touching the gear that may decide whether or not you wake up tomorrow. You run your fingers down the blade's edge, not to test sharpness, but to remember. Last time it struck bone. This time, who knows? Just outside the window, you hear a dog bark. Then silence. Then wind. It almost sounds like the night is holding its breath. And you hold yours too. There's a ritual to this, even if no one taught it. Even if no one will see. You know the order: inspect, clean, whisper, exhale. You sheathe the sword last. Not because it's the most dangerous, but because it's the one you trust least to rest. You set your weapons gently aside, then kneel on the cold stone floor. The surface presses against your knees like memory. You clasp your hands, not in grandeur, but in habit. And you whisper, not to God perhaps, but to someone. Anyone. There's no prayer book. No guiding hymn. Just you and the echo of your own breath. And still, you speak. Let those I love sleep through the night. Let those I face have mercy or not. Let me return, or let me be remembered well. It's not bravery. It's honesty. You're not asking to win only to last. Some knights believe the divine walks beside them in battle. Others think he watches from a distance. You? You think he listens quietly, if he listens at all. And still, you speak. Because sometimes the most sacred thing isn't being heard. It's daring to say the words anyway. Next, you take out the tiny scroll you carry inside your chest plate. Not a holy text. Not a map. But a single line, scrawled in crooked ink. Do not forget who you are when no one is watching. It's from your old teacher. He died in battle. Or disappeared, depends who's telling the story. The ink is smudged now. But you still read it every night? As if the words carry weight beyond their shape. As if memory could be armor too. A knock echoes from the hallway, soft, respectful. Someone asking if you're done. You say, almost. Because you are. Almost. You roll the scroll back tight, tuck it under your tunic, and breathe in. The smell of oiled steel and burnt wick fills your chest. And something steadier than fear settles in your stomach. This is how you sleep, by remembering why you still wake. You sit back on your heels now. Not ready to lie down, but no longer tense. There's a rhythm to the way the night slows down. You can hear a stable door creak somewhere below. You can hear your heartbeat in your ears. Before bed, you often whisper a few lines you made up yourself. Not poetry, just phrases that feel safe. Let the fire stay in the hearth. Let my horse rest without fear. Let no one come through the gates tonight. They're not rules. They're wishes. And wishes, sometimes, are all you've got left. A wind rattles the shutters. You look up. The moonlight's cold, but still, it shows you your reflection in the blade beside you. For a moment, you don't look like a knight. You look like a man who's lived another day. And that's something. But before sleep takes you entirely, there's a final habit, one that's never been written in any manual of chivalry. You trace the edge of your blanket, fingers running the seam as if it were a fault line. Each stitch holds a memory, a stitch from your mother, perhaps, or a traveling tailor you paid with a song. Even a knight needs comfort, and this thin, worn wool is the closest thing you have to a home. You turn on your side. The mat creaks, the straw shifts. You let your eyes follow the beams above, counting them without purpose. Above your head, a spider works its web in the corner, patient, invisible, eternal. You think of the road, of old battles, long rides, broken ribs. You remember the smile of a stranger who gave you bread? You remember the first time your armor didn't feel like a prison? You whisper a name, just one. No one hears. That's the point. Maybe it's someone lost. Maybe it's someone you hope to meet again. Even knights have ghosts. And not all of them are scary. A distant bell rings. Midnight. Somewhere, in another wing of the keep, another knight is lying awake, wondering the same things, fearing the same futures, hoping for the same small mercies. You're not alone. Not really. Not ever. And that's enough. You shift once more. Your breath deepens. The world softens around you. The sword stays beside you. The prayers hover above. And your heartbeat slows, one quiet moment at a time. The straw is rough. The stone is cold. But tonight they feel familiar, almost kind. Sleep takes you not like a storm, but like a gentle tide. A slow pull into a place where the weight lifts. Not forever, but long enough. The great hall has long since gone quiet. Only a faint echo of laughter lingers in the corridors, like smoke clinging to the stone. The knight's boots thud dully on the wooden floor as he walks to his quarters. His legs feel heavier than his armor now. He pushes the door open, and it creaks, just enough to remind him he's home. Inside, the room is modest. No velvet drapes or golden goblets. Just a straw mattress, a worn woolen blanket, a wooden chest, and a shelf with 3 things: a dagger, a book of psalms, and a carved token from someone long gone. The torch in the hallway flickers out. He lights a candle near the bed, watching how the flame stretches, twists, then steadies. Piece by piece, he begins to unfasten the day. The belt, the tunic, the greaves. He winces at the bruise blooming on his side from sparring. It'll be sore tomorrow, but not dangerous. He rubs his eyes and sits on the edge of the bed. There's a smell of leather, sweat, and faint lavender from the soap he used earlier. The day is gone. His shoulders sag. but he doesn't fall, not yet. Before he lies down, he breathes out, long, slow, and hollow, letting the silence take over. The moment he closes his eyes, the world shifts. Not away from him, but inward. Dreams arrive not as stories, but as sensations. A breeze through pine trees. The thud of hooves on soft dirt. Laughter, clear and free, though he doesn't know whose. His body may rest on straw, but his mind walks somewhere else entirely. He dreams of a narrow trail through the forest, mist curling around his knees. His horse walks beside him, not behind, not ahead, as if it, too, is dreaming. The leaves overhead shimmer in moonlight. He hears a voice calling from a distance. It might be his brother's. It might be no one's. Then the trail opens into a clearing, and suddenly there's a table set for a feast, but no food. A banner waves in the breeze, blank as snow. A young boy hands him a flower, says nothing, and walks away. The knight looks down and sees his hands are clean, unscarred, unfamiliar. Somewhere in this dream, something shifts. A shadow in the trees. The horse bristles. The candle in the dream flickers. And the knight, even in sleep, feels it, that sudden weight in his chest. Not fear exactly, but the knowledge that dreams are never just dreams. Not all dreams are kind. Some arrive with noise, metal on metal, cries cut short, fire crackling too close. The knight sees faces he hasn't seen in years, some lost in real battles, others only in memory. He walks through burning villages, empty halls, and endless fields of fallen flags. There's a coldness in these dreams, not of weather, but of absence. He tries to speak, to call out to his comrades, but the words don't come. The silence is louder than war drums. His sword feels too heavy to lift. He looks down and sees it's made of glass, already cracked. A crow lands on his shoulder and whispers his name, and when he turns, no one is there. He shifts in bed. His breath quickens. There's a twitch in his leg, a furrow in his brow. The blanket slips halfway off, but he doesn't wake. He's in a dream loop now, a memory dressed as a monster, a regret dressed as fire. Then a different sound breaks through. A dog barking in the distance. Wind whistling through the shutter. His body stirs. Eyes open. Just a moment. He listens. Nothing. Still. Safe. But that dream, it never really leaves. The room is dark now, but not silent. The wind shifts outside, brushing against the shutters like a restless spirit. Somewhere in the courtyard, a bucket tips. Maybe a cat. Maybe not. The knight opens one eye, alert in an instant. His hand slides toward the dagger beneath the bed. He doesn't move otherwise, not yet. He waits. Listens. A footstep? A breath? No. Just the creak of beams and his own heart thudding like a drum in the distance. This, too, is part of the life, knowing danger could be real or imagined, but reacting the same either way. A lesson hammered in with every sunrise since his youth. After a while, when nothing happens, he relaxes again. The dagger remains under the mattress, cold and comfortingly sharp. He adjusts the blanket, shifts onto his side, and exhales. That deep, chest-filling kind of breath that signals the mind it's safe to let go. Outside, the wind continues. A soft howl. A hoot of an owl. Life goes on, even when it's unseen. And the knight, knowing this, closes his eyes again. If he dreams, let them be strange. Let them be loud. As long as they are his. In the last stretch before dawn, the knight dreams one final time. Not of battle, not of duty, but of a road, long, winding, shaded by tall trees with bark the color of ash. Alongside him walks no one, and yet he's not alone. The breeze hums a melody he swears he once heard as a child. Maybe from his mother, maybe from a dream. Ahead, a cottage appears. Small, warm, with smoke curling gently from the chimney. Ivy hugs the stone. A dog wags its tail at the door. He walks closer, but never quite reaches it. The dream always stops just before the door opens. He stirs again. Dawn is coming. Pale light sneaks past the window slats. The world is waiting. But for a few more breaths, he stays under the blanket, eyes closed, holding on to the cottage, the melody, the warmth. Because in the end, the strongest shield is not made of steel. It's made of memories, laughter, love, and the quiet hope that tomorrow he gets to try again. No sword required. Just breath. Just sleep. And in that last moment before waking, he whispers something he won't remember. But it carries him gently into the day. You wake before the bell. Not out of fear. Not because someone calls, but because your body remembers. This is what it does. This is who you are. The stillness is whole. Your eyes blink against the darkness. Not quite black, not quite gray. A soft breeze from the cracks in the stone brushes your face. It smells of hay, smoke, and the faint metallic bite of your armor nearby. You pull the rough wool blanket off your shoulders. Your joints creak, but gently. They're loyal, if not silent. The ceiling above greets you like an old friend. Wooden beams, the same spider web in the corner, and that single knot in the wood shaped like a crooked smile. Then the bell rings. Not loud, not jarring, just one note, clear, ancient. A bell that says, yes, we are still here. You sit up and feel the day settle on your shoulders before the armor does. The candle stub beside your bed flickers once before dying. You don't need it. This is the beginning of something you already know by heart. Because every night lives the same first few moments. And yet somehow, no two mornings are the same. The floor greets your feet like it's testing your resolve. Cold, stone, familiar. You rise slowly, with dignity, with quiet. Because the first moments shape the rest. There's no need to rush. The world is not yet demanding anything of you. But it will. You move through your chamber like water over rocks, flowing around what can't be changed, softening what can. Your armor leans against the far wall, still holding yesterday's dust, still loyal, still waiting. You wash your face in the basin. The water is colder than you expected. You don't flinch. You let it wake you up properly. There's a ritual in everything. Even in lacing your tunic, in checking your gloves, in inspecting each buckle. Nothing flashy, nothing heroic. just small acts of care that mean everything. You glance at your sword. It glints faintly in the half-light. You don't lift it. You just nod to it, like two comrades acknowledging the day ahead. The second bell rings. This one's sharper, meant for those who forgot the first. But you didn't forget. You were already becoming yourself again, piece by steady piece. You step into the hallway, and the world returns. The faint scuff of boots, the hush of fabric swaying, and somewhere down the corridor, the sound of someone humming a tune older than memory. You walk past familiar doors, tapestries you've seen 1,000 times but never really noticed. This time, you notice. There's a thread loose in the griffin's wing, a tear near the boar's tusk. Even stone and silk remember time. At the stairs, you pause. A young squire sees you and bows too quickly. You smile, nod back. No words exchanged, but enough said. The descent into the lower levels is quieter than usual. You hear a rooster crow twice, always twice. A pot clangs in the kitchen. Someone curses softly. You breathe in. Bread, oats, ash, life. You tighten your belt, not for battle, but for belonging. Everything today will feel like yesterday. But you are not the same. Not after the dream you had. Not after what you whispered to the candle stub last night. A knight changes not in battle, but in the moments before anyone's watching. Outside, the sky is still unsure of itself. Blue threatens to break through the gray, but not yet. You walk past the stables. Your horse huffs once in recognition. You don't stop. You nod. He knows. A page offers you a small loaf, still warm. You take it, tear it, eat it slowly. Every bite is ordinary, and yet somehow comforting. In the yard, a squire struggles with a shield too big for his back. You remember that feeling, the weight, the wobble. You almost offer help, but then stop. Some lessons must be earned. The forge is already glowing. You feel its heat before you see it. A blacksmith grunts a greeting. You raise a hand. Everything feels alive, not loud, but present. Even the wind carries stories. Leaves scrape across stone in ways that almost form words. You touch your dagger's hilt. Not to draw it, just to remember it's there. Not every fight begins with a blade. Sometimes it starts with a question. Sometimes it starts with silence. You carry both. You return to your chamber only once to collect one thing. Not a sword, not a scroll, but a ribbon tucked under your mattress, faded, frayed, sacred. You tuck it inside your tunic, a reminder of something worth protecting. The bell rings once more. This one you don't hear with your ears, but your ribs. It vibrates inside you. The sun peeks through the tower slit, sharp and golden. You step into it, and that is enough. The page is waiting, eyes wide, with questions he won't ask. You nod. He follows. And just like that, the day begins again. Not with fireworks, not with horns, but with footsteps. And you are the one who walks. Because that's the vow you made. To rise, to return, to repeat. Even when tired. Even when unsure. Even when yesterday is still clinging to your shoulders. You walk. Because someone must. And because deep down, you know, tomorrow begins again. but today is still yours. Good night. And next time, we'll find out why monks painted snails into sacred manuscripts for no reason at all, except maybe joy. Sleep well, brave one. Your story continues.